William Smith, 8th Kentucky Volunteers, photographed shortly after his release from Belle Isle Prison in the spring of 1864. Captured at Chickamauga, he somehow survived the war. Senator Alban Barkley of Kentucky views the evidence of Nazi atrocities firsthand at Buchenwald concentration camp, Weimar, Germany. Some things had to be witnessed to be believed. Remains still inside the crematoriums at Buchenwald, Germany, photographed by the 3rd U.S. Army on April 14, 1945. Prisoners of all nationalities perished within these walls. Survivors of Ebense concentration camp, a subcamp of Mauthausen-Gusen. Half-starved prisoners photographed after liberation, many barely clinging to life. Bergen-Belsen, April 1945. Camp Dr. Fritz Klein stands in a mass grave. He assisted in selections at Auschwitz before transferring here. He was executed for war crimes in December 1945. Jewish children in the liberated Auschwitz camp, a still from Soviet footage filmed by Alexander Vorontsov on January 28, 1945. Freedom had finally arrived. Epinal area, France, January 12, 1945. The frozen ground was so solid that ordinary picks would break. Compressed air jackhammers were pressed into use instead. Captain Alfred de Grazia stands in front of a pile of victims at Dachau 2 days after liberation. He was commanding officer of a psychological warfare unit attached to the 7th Army. Waco, Texas, May 15, 1916. A mob prepared to carry out vigilante justice against Jesse Washington in front of City Hall. Photographer Fred Gildersleeve documented what happened next. Aleppo, Syria. An Armenian woman kneels beside her child who did not survive, within sight of help and safety. So close, yet too far. A column of Armenian Christians marched across the plains of Mamurit-ul-Aziz. Guards walked alongside. The line was long, but it grew shorter with every passing mile. Unit 731. General Shiro Ishii and his team performed experiments on living prisoners without anesthesia. Thousands of victims, mostly Chinese prisoners, including children and elderly farmers, never left alive. Japanese Kempei Tai inspect Chinese men for weapons. Military police enforcing occupation. Suspicion was enough for detention. S-21 Tuol Slang Security Prison in Cambodia, a detention center used by the Khmer Rouge from 1976 to 1979. This mother and her baby were among those held inside these walls. Hiroshima, August 1945. A survivor of the atomic bombing with severe burns across the body. Photographed by Kimiura Kenichi. The flash changed everything in an instant. Hiroshima, Japan, 1947. An atomic bomb survivor 2 years after the blast. The wounds healed slowly, some never healed at all. Florida, circa 1903. Young African-American convicts chained together, forced to harvest timber. Forced labor disguised as punishment. A system that lasted decades. Enslaved people standing in a row, all chained together, each carrying a basket. An albumin print documenting the machinery of bondage. Auschwitz, Birkenau, May 1944. Hungarian Jews on the selection ramp, some sent to labor, others sent to the gas chambers, decisions made in seconds. Krumsal Workhouse, circa 1985 to 1997. 23 boys housed in institutional care. For many, this was the only home they ever knew. Russian prisoners of war marched toward German prison camps. Many would never return home. The Eastern Front consumed millions. Harriet Jordan, admitted in 1858, diagnosed with acute mania. One of countless patients confined inside asylum walls during an era that understood little about mental illness. an unidentified female patient admitted to West Riding Asylum with general paralysis. Her name lost to history. Her photograph remains. Dutch Jews wearing prison uniforms marked with a yellow star and the letter N for Netherlands. Roll call at Mauthausen concentration camp, standing at attention, waiting for whatever came next. Northern Norway, October 1944. Civilians forced to evacuate by German forces struggled across mountain plateaus to reach Sweden. An old woman waits in line for food in Kiruna, her most precious possessions wrapped in a single package. Utah Beach, June 6, 1944. German prisoners of war inside a barbed wire enclosure. African-American soldiers visible in the distance, a Sherman tank named Delphia stranded on the sand behind them. Milan, April 28, 1945. Vera Roll subject to public humiliation in Via Tabaci. Photographed and published by the newspaper L'Avanti. Justice or vengeance, the line blurred that day. Baltimore City Jail, circa 1885. A whipping post used until 1938, often for those convicted of domestic violence. A prisoner stands ready, officials watch. Auschwitz, Jewish prisoner number 13088 after her hair is shorn, identity stripped away, reduced to a number. January 1945. Captured German soldiers surrender with hands raised to a U.S. soldier. Poor weather and Allied resistance stopped their advance. Antwerp remained out of reach. Hanoi, North Vietnam. John McCain lies in a hospital bed after being taken prisoner of war. He would spend over 5 years in captivity before returning home. Northern Gaza, June 16, 2025. Palestinians struggle to access food amid ongoing crisis. History repeating in real time. A civilian internment camp in Canada. Wartime measures that detained thousands, often based on ethnicity alone. New York City, 1909. 2 young women march in a labor parade wearing banners that read "Abolish child slavery" in English and Yiddish. Jewish immigrants were among the most active voices in the fight against child labor. May 1945. Former prisoners in bunk beds immediately after liberation. Freedom had arrived, but recovery would take much longer.
An abandoned camp that was used to detain Jewish people and those who opposed the Reich. Now silent, now empty. The walls remain standing, witnesses to what happened here. Auschwitz, main camp, Poland, circa 1947. A post-war photograph of the chamber where thousands met their end, preserved now as a reminder of what should never be repeated. Hamburg, Germany. Aerial view of ruined residential and commercial buildings in the Eilbeck district. Royal Air Force Bomber Command, 1942-1945. An entire neighborhood reduced to rubble from above. Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia. The gate at the main entrance to war prisoner barracks. Double barbed wire fence. No way in, no way out. An unidentified malnourished prisoner of war from Belle Isle, Richmond. Photographed at U.S. General Hospital, Division 1, Annapolis. His body tells the story of what he endured. A starved Serbian prisoner of war photographed by an Italian in Austria. Skin stretched over bones. A record of wartime suffering that words cannot fully capture. Prisoners transported to Dachau from another concentration camp. They did not survive the journey. Their bodies lay where they fell. Sidi Rezek, Western Desert, 1941. Battlefield remains scattered across the sand. What conflict leaves behind when the fighting finally stops. Ivalo, Finland. A burned village during the War of Lapland. An entire community reduced to nothing but ash and memory. Silent cities. A typical British cemetery, 1919. Rows of graves stretching into the distance. The true cost of the First World War measured in headstones. Bergen-Belsen, April 1945. A pile of shoes photographed immediately after British liberation. Each pair belonged to a prisoner held inside these walls, many of them never left alive. Dachau, newly liberated. Survivors search through a massive pile of prisoner clothing, looking for something familiar, looking for proof that someone they knew once existed. Courcelette, France, 1916. A destroyed church, only 2 damaged walls still standing among mounds of rubble. Complete obliteration where faith once gathered. Richmond Male Orphan Asylum at 1900 Amelia Street, 1909, where children without families were housed and raised, for many the only home they ever knew. Auschwitz I. The yard between blocks 10 and 11 with a replica of the memorial wall. This is where prisoners faced their final moments. Their remains were taken to the crematorium. Warsaw. A destroyed armed vehicle viewed from a corner townhouse at Marszałkowska and Królewska streets. Wartime wreckage frozen in place. Rookhurst Stool Building in Manitoba before it burned down in 1941. Once a gathering place for community events, Christmas concerts, church services, and local meetings, all lost to flames. Quebet El Hawa, Egypt. Discovery of ancient remains with a wooden coffin during the Schiaparelli excavations. Thousands of years underground, finally brought to light. Eastern slopes of the North Hill. Ancient burials discovered during excavation. A body placed inside a double vase, lower half holding the remains, upper half serving as a lid, sealed together with mud mortar for eternity. Shidi Rezek, Egypt. UNRRA's largest Middle East camp housed 20,000 displaced people in the desert near the Suez Canal. Children bathed under supervision and watched Allied ships pass by, carrying wheat bound for Europe. Portrait of Sami Dora working at dam construction in the Im Fut labor camp. One face among thousands forced to build under difficult conditions. Yosemite Valley, 1943-1945. The Ahwahnee Hotel's Grand Lounge transformed into U.S. Navy Ward A. Injured sailors and Marines recovering in one of America's most beautiful places. American prisoners of war receiving proper care and treatment, a stark contrast to the harsh conditions they endured under North Korean forces during the conflict. A freed laborer among prisoners liberated by the 3rd Armored Division. He points out a former Nazi guard. Justice delivered by those who survived.
New York City. A hot summer day on the streets. Boys crouch on the pavement, shooting marbles. The simple games of childhood before screens existed. The public lines up outside the New York Sub-Treasury building to buy the new Lincoln cent. A 1-cent coin drawing crowds. A small piece of history people wanted to hold in their hands. Juarez, Mexico, circa 1905. People gather on the sidewalk across from the church. Some sit on benches. A street light stands behind them. Ordinary life in a border town. St. Patrick's College, Ravenswood. The Queen of the May seated under the pole. Attendants kneeling beside her. Schoolgirls in pale Edwardian dresses pose for the camera. A tradition frozen in time. USS Missouri, September 2nd, 1945. Japanese Foreign Minister Mamoru Shigemitsu signs the Instrument of Surrender. Lieutenant General Richard Sutherland watches from across the table. World War II officially ends. Guam, October 1944. 2 Japanese soldiers lie in the tangled undergrowth. They will fight no more. The 77th Infantry Division moved on, leaving this moment behind. Thuran Duc, Vietnam. A Viet Cong prisoner awaits interrogation at the A-109 Special Forces Detachment. Hands bound, future uncertain. Vietnam. A member of the 1st Brigade, 5th Infantry Division, takes down barbed tape. The war was winding down, but the work of leaving was just beginning. Vietnam veterans throw their medals away in protest against the war. Honors earned in battle, discarded in anger. A generation's disillusionment on full display. Unemployed men during the Great Depression, standing in line, waiting for work that may never come. Millions shared this same hopeless view. San Antonio, Texas. A Mexican boy eats his lunch. A simple moment, but his worn clothes tell a larger story of hardship. German-occupied Lodz during World War II. German police record the names and personal data of imprisoned Poles. Identity reduced to paperwork. People reduced to numbers. Rotterdam, October 11, 1941. A large Reich Labor Service exhibition opens in the presence of Reichskommissar Seyss-Inquart and General Commissar Schmidt. Occupation on display. Gusen concentration camp after liberation. Empty now. Silent now. The horror that happened here no longer hidden from the world. Buchenwald, April 1945. U.S. soldiers bring citizens of Weimar to the crematorium courtyard to witness what was found. This photograph appeared in the London Times on April 18th, the first image of Buchenwald the world ever saw. Women in the barracks of newly liberated Auschwitz. On the far left, wearing a scarf, is Rivka Ruchla-Chenkinska. She survived. Many beside her did not. Al-Magroun concentration camp, Libya, 1931. Distribution of soup to approximately 13,000 Libyan prisoners. Italian colonial rule enforced through confinement and control. Okinawa. A hospital set up by U.S. military government in Sobe after the invasion. A mother bathes her child suffering from malnutrition. War's toll measured in the smallest victims. Goldfield, Nevada, circa 1900 to 1905. 3 miners in prospector outfits stand beside a burro cart loaded with camp supplies. The gold rush drew thousands. Most found only dust. Goldfield, Nevada, circa 1905. A team of 12 horses hauls 3 wagons full of ore. On the hill above, a mill and mining facilities. The machinery of extraction at full scale. Udlo, 1914. Workers attend to a derailed railway carriage. Before modern equipment, manpower and patience were the only tools available. Port Antwerp, 1964. Special cargo, a mini-submarine bound for Nassau, Bahamas, being loaded through Hatch 3 on the 'tween deck. Not every shipment was ordinary. Port Sudan, 1960. Dock workers load bagged cargo onto MS Rothenstein. Each bag weighs 70 kilograms, filled with oil cake. Brutal work under brutal sun. Titanic sea deck under construction. Steel and rivets coming together to form what they believed was unsinkable. They were wrong. Captain Edward John Smith stands on the Titanic bridge morning of April 10, 1912. 4 days later, he would go down with his ship. London, April 16, 1912. Ned Parfitt, the Titanic paperboy, holds a newspaper banner about the sinking outside the White Star Line offices near Trafalgar Square. The world was just learning the truth. Angordon, Gothenburg, early 1900s. A ward in the Children's Hospital. Small beds lined up in rows.
medicine still finding its way in caring for the young. Romanos Sanatorium. A patient rests in bed on the veranda outside the hospital room. Fresh air was considered treatment. Isolation was considered cure. Fremantle Prison, 1909. The radiating exercise yard seen from above. Inmates walked in circles under watchful eyes. Routine was the only freedom allowed.